직장인의 출발을 응원해주세요. 공익광고협의회.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
Well, we are just about 2 months away from Donald Trump's return to the White House. And as South Korea's biggest ally, a change of administration in the United States has huge ramifications here domestically, especially for the country's economy, right? And so this ranges from things like tariffs to abolishing subsidies for EVs and chips, which are major industries here in South Korea. And this situation could have far-reaching effects into Busan's economy and beyond. Major changes are inevitable, and thorough preparation and diplomacy are going to be essential to help Korea and the bilateral relationship thrive in the next 4 years. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Wednesday, November 20th on BEFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well and surviving this early winter. Shall I call it a chill? Some people might say kind of freeze because it's been in the minus territory in some parts of the country. So wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. And I brought out the green sweater, looking forward to December, right? Well, President-elect Donald Trump will be returning to the Oval Office in exactly 2 months as the inauguration ceremony is set for January 20th. So for South Korea, the biggest concern is this, the economy, as our experts have said time and time again on our special interviews. So we're going to look at some of the specifics today that experts and pundits predict, they say might see changed under the new Donald Trump, or they say, the Trump 2.0 administration. So first, experts say that the new Trump administration is expected to abolish the tax breaks for electric vehicles or EVs under the Inflation Reduction Act. So they shortened that to the IRA. In Korean, they call it the Inflation 감축법. So another issue will be the tariffs, the 관세, where he has pledged a 10 to 20% universal tariff. So we're talking about 보편적 관세 with additional tariffs on China. What else? Trump's re-election really has already shaken up the currency market, sending the South Korean won beyond the 1,400 won mark per dollar. That mark, right? And if such high currency rates continue, this could also trigger a rise in prices. And if that continues, that could then prompt the central bank to raise interest rates, 이자율, to try to keep prices in check. So I don't know. We don't want that kind of domino effect to get started. We all remember the high currency, high prices, high interest rate trifecta from a few years back. Do you remember that? The 고환율, 고물가, 고금리? We don't want that, right? So, of course, this isn't to incite panic, but only to urge preparedness in the face of uncertainties. Now, are you ready for a text topic? It's kind of like a quiz today. You're going to have to choose because we have many choices for you. It's kind of a which would you rather kind of question today. So listen up. 오늘 듣기 시험이라고 생각하고요. 근데 we're going to do it in English and Korean, so don't worry. Here we go. All right, so if you had to choose one of these 5 things about your job, but you could only choose one, 하나만 선택할 수 있습니다. Here we go. Are you ready? Number 1. In your workplace, 일에서만요, no stressful relationships at work. Number 2, a 5-minute commute. Oh, that's nice, right? Number 3, a high salary. Number 4, work-life balance. Or number 5, a sense of accomplishment. So you have to only choose one. So what is your priority if you had to choose one? All right, so in Korean 하나만 고를 수 있고요. 직장에서 네, 가정에서요. 자, 1번 스트레스 1도 없는 인간관계. Can you imagine? Number 2, 5분 내 출퇴근 거리. 3번 높은 월급. 4번 워라밸. 그리고 5번 성취감. 다 너무 좋잖아요. Oh gosh, if you could have all 5, but you can only choose one. Which would you choose and why? 왜? What's the reason? Send in your answer, your multiple choice answer to our live stream, live chat on YouTube. You can search for BEFM or 부산영어방송 on our YouTube. You can find our YouTube channel that way. You can subscribe, log in, and then chat with our other waivers. Also, on your phone, pound 9050 샵 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. Also, you can find us on our Kakao. Find our Kakao Talk channel. Search for BEFM or 부산영어방송 as well. Same way. You can send in your messages. You can send in photos as well. You can listen to us in various ways. 90.5, 103.3 FM on the radio. That's if you're in the Busan area. You can watch us on YouTube right now. We're streaming live. You can watch again at your leisure as well. We have 2 apps. First up, the BEFM app. It is free, easy to download, and then we are available on the Patbang app as well. So it is Wednesday. What do we have in store for you? We have Leon coming in for hashtag fact check, and then Jennifer in hour number 2 with Skills 101 for our special interview. I wish we didn't have to, but we are marking 1,000 days of war in Ukraine. So what do we need to know? And you may have seen the latest breaking news about Ukraine firing U.S. long-range missiles into Russian territory. So there's a lot to unfold as we look back on the past 1,000 days. That's coming up in hour number 2. And I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:07, and these are today's headlines. Ukraine fires U.S.-made ATACMS missiles into Russia. So Ukraine has fired U.S.-supplied long-range missiles. They are also called attack missiles into Russian territory for the first time, a day after Washington gave its permission for such usage. Lee Jae-myung indicted over misusing corporate cards and official car. Suwon District Prosecutor's Office yesterday indicted opposition leader Lee Jae-myung on charges of embezzling 106.53 million won from the Gyeonggi provincial government during his term as governor. Yoon condemns Pyongyang-Moscow military relations at G20. President Yoon Suk-yeol strongly criticized the deepening military cooperation between North Korea and Russia at the Group of 20 or G20 summit in Brazil. Three dead at Hyundai Motor Plant during car test. 3 researchers died of suffocation during vehicle testing at a Hyundai Motors plant in Ulsan, said the officials yesterday. POSCO shuts down wire rod mill in Pohang due to oversupply. POSCO, South Korea's top steelmaker, has said that it has shut down a wire rod mill in its Pohang factory in order to boost profitability and managerial efficiency. And these are today's headlines. Let's say hi to Haley this morning. Hello.
Good morning.
It's so chilly. It went from, like, we were talking about this off air, like nice autumn
Late
weather.
summer, early autumn
And
to
then
just
bam, winter.
It's winter.
Yes. So before we get into our Busan updates, if you could only choose one, and I know it's hard.
And then, by the way, we're gonna say it's not like you're gonna have a super low salary. Just keep it as it is. Everything else is the same.
Yes.
Decent, hopefully. Then you just can improve one. Okay, and I also know that the English options and the Korean options on the YouTube, they don't match. Sorry, I'll change that, but hang in there for the next 20 minutes.
Because we changed it at the last minute.
We changed it,
yes.
so yeah. I think I'm gonna keep things the same, and because I do have a fairly decent work-life balance, and I have good sense of accomplishment. My commute is definitely not 5 minutes, but I have a driver. It's my father.
No,
he might choose the 5 minutes or less commute,
okay.
but that's not my problem. Sorry,
Okay.
that's not my problem.
Throw dad under the bus.
Yeah. I think stress 1도 없는 인간관계. I think just no stress relationships.
Really?
Because it's not something I can control.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Because I can
Yes.
always, I don't know, the salary, but I can always work
우리 피디님
more.
마이크 달아야
I know,
돼요.
she's like,
talk
월급도. And I'm like, well, I can always work more if I needed to. Yeah, I can kind of work less if I wanted work-life balance. But yeah, stressful relationships, that's out of my control.
Because, yeah.
Yeah. Because,
Some people are just.
because people are people.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to dive into our updates. First, a major construction company in Busan is facing bankruptcy.
Unfortunately so. So according to the Korea Financial Telecommunications and Clearance Institute,
Yes.
this company, 신태양건설, 신태양 Constructions, they're checking current accounts. They have been suspended. In Korean, that's what's called 당좌 거래 정지.
Yes.
So what happens is that basically they haven't been able to clear their checks or post-dated checks, So basically they don't have money to clear their checks.
Okay.
So financial institutes, in this case, they suspend the company's accounts. And this is kind of seen as an initial step towards declaring bankruptcy or filing for a closure of business.
Yes.
So those in the industry say that this is shocking, but 신태양 Construction is suffering from some serious liquidity cash flow issues stemming from this overall freeze in the construction sector that we've been seeing.
Right.
And the government, that's because the government has restricted loans for households to keep household loans under check. At the same time, imposed heavy regulations for these real estate project financing or the PF market. So that has kind of frozen over demand for both housing and larger commercial industry. So the thing is, 신태양, it has been considered to be on solid footing and holds a stable position in the local Busan construction market in its 20-year history. So experts say that there are fears of a domino bankruptcy for smaller construction companies as the government has doubled down on real estate regulations. However, though, their position is that these overzealous investments are only happening in the capital area. So for the government to kind of impose one-size-fits-all regulations across the entire industry, that's really suffocating the local construction companies.
I see. Well, not great to hear about, though. All right, we're going to move on to our next story. Haeundae District is working on building its new district office. So apparently they found this mysterious kind of pile of waste at the new site.
Right. So we're not just talking about several pieces of trash. We are talking about 100,000 ton of waste, like concrete,
Wow.
steel, and building material found buried at the site back in August. And this is for the new 해운대구 신청사, the new government building. So the district has therefore put up a public bid on the government website for a company to take care of this waste.
Okay.
According to the report, this includes some 75,000 ton of construction waste, 12,000 ton of concrete, and 9,800 ton of miscellaneous construction debris.
So big question, where did this come from?
That's a great question
Right.
because that is the mystery. So the thing is, this land, it was previously initially owned by the Defense Ministry.
Oh.
And then Busan City bought it. And then in two occasions, 2001 and 2006, 해운대구 District bought the land from Busan City. So it's always been under public control.
Yes.
And, there's a possibility that the waste was buried there, highly possible, without anyone's permission, any government permission. But this also means that the prolonged presence of this waste underground may have led to soil contamination. So that will have to be checked as well. And of course, to clear this, because this was found back in August, the construction will be delayed by about 100 days. And the district council said that there is a need for a full investigation into, well, who put it there, because then we might be able to file for compensations. However, according to the district office, according to reports, Haeundae doesn't have any plans to look for the culprit because there just aren't enough clues as to even which decade this was buried in. So would you justify spending resources to look for that, and even how? But here's the thing. It's going to cost money to clear all that concrete and debris. 8.6 billion won.
Oh gosh.
86억 won. And that's coming out of taxpayer money.
Right. And the entities that you mentioned, though, they're all like governmental
They're
entities
all governmental
anyways.
entities, right.
Right, so it's
right.
like if you even had to find the culprit,
Right.
it's like a government agency, right?
Right, or somebody who fell off their job,
Yes.
and didn't. How do you also not notice 100,000 ton of debris getting buried? Right.
I just don't get it. All right, let's move on. Busan City is launching, or they're looking to establish this specialized high school on nuclear energy. So how's this going to happen?
Right. So this would be 원자력 고등학교.
Okay.
The Busan Office of Education is working on this nuclear energy specialized high school and recently met with a local firm that develops these small module reactors.
Okay.
The education governor also visited the company's headquarters recently and discussed different possibilities for education, curricula, and developing talent. And this is seen as the first step in the office's efforts to get started on this school. And they're going to now work on setting up a curriculum for the particular major,
Right.
and figure out the demand and industry's needs.
Yes. So that is, I'm sure, for kids that are interested in this will be good, right? And now we're going to talk about this. The country's biggest gaming convention, which is right here in Busan, G-Star, wrapped up its 20th run. So we need to kind of take a look back, look at the figures. What happened?
Right. So let's go over G-Star's report
Yes.
card. G-Star 2024 went on from November 14th to the 17th.
Sure.
And we have the final numbers.
Okay.
So according to the organizing committee, 215,000 people visited. This is far beyond last year's 197,000. On the final day, the line apparently went around the block. By the way, the figure, though, it is the second highest, not the highest. That goes to 2019. With 244,000. But this is the highest since the post-COVID years,
Yes.
and hopefully we will see this figure go up even more next year. The scale, though, was the biggest yet, with 1,375 companies from 44 countries participating, over 3,300 booths. The companies included Nexon, which was the main sponsor for the event, Google Korea, Netmarble, Krafton, and others, showcasing new products. Nexon in particular debuted 4 new games here. Also, they had a huge orchestra performance to mark the company's 40th anniversary. Global firms also gained a lot of compliments and attention, including Saudi Arabia has this new game-themed city called Qiddiya, and they had a lot of attention over this as well.
Okay.
And the organizing committee thanked the public for their unwavering support, not only this year, but for the past 20 years, and said that they will continue to make improvements moving forward.
And I love the fact that our city gets to host
And it's
it.
in Busan.
Yes. The best thing about it. Well, thank you for the updates, Haley. Now back to you. The waivers are very, I think, interesting multiple choice kind of quiz today. Which would you rather? So here are your choices. You can only choose one, so it's going to take a while. In English, I'm going to go through them. This is only about your workplace. If you had to choose just one, what would it be? Number 1, no stressful relationships. Number 2, a 5-minute commute. Number 3, high salary. Number 4, work-life balance. Number 5, a sense of accomplishment. So in Korea, we're talking about 직장에서만이에요. 스트레스 1도 없는 인간관계. 2번, 5분 내 출퇴근 거리. 3번, 높은 월급. 4번, 워라밸. 5번, 성취감. So those are your choices. And here's your traffic and weather. It is now time for your traffic and weather. It is looking slow on Luno Samsung-daedo from the Myeongji Underpass to Shinho Bridge right now. Also backed up on the Namhae Expressway from Namsanjeong Subway Station to Deokcheon Interchange Overpass. And there is congestion building on the Dongso Overpass from Bunyeon Ramp to the Old Kaegum Tollgate. As for the weather, it's currently 6 degrees under clear skies. The clouds will roll in by midday with a daytime high of around 16 degrees Celsius. Across the nation, well, there are going to be cloudy skies with rain forecast in parts of Jeju and along the western coast. And this was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm having fun looking at the responses. I know we have to
They're
get to
great.
news. I love the fact that everybody has a different answer because they're not all just like, just one answer. I mean, some people really like they like the like 서혜리님. They say what about with like, is it 7 exclamation points? Like it's really important to her.
Wow.
Right. And other people, it's like, hey, number 3, no stress relationships.
Yeah. Or I'm seeing a lot of ka-ching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kaching as well. Yes. We're going to jump into our first story. So first, the military announced that they are vastly increasing the wages and welfare for military officers.
Which is what kind of encouraged this topic.
Okay.
But the Defense Ministry said that it's going to raise the base wage, the basic wage for entry-level officers, so 초급 간부, by up to 6%, which, by the way, compared to the previous years, a huge rate of increase.
Okay.
So for staff sergeants, hasa, that's like the lowest level of officers, their base wage will go from, and this is shocking, right now they get paid 1.76 million won per month. 176만 원 is their 기본급. And I'm like, that's not minimum wage. That's below the minimum wage.
Right.
That was last year, by the way. That went up to 1.87 million won this year, which still also not minimum wage, to finally 2 million won next year. And this is per month. So this means that their base pay will now be equivalent to sergeants. 병장, and that is the highest of conscript soldiers. So for these new officers, they do and will get extra pay for overtime, being on duty, and that includes 100,000 won per day for standing duty on holidays. So with everything, the government says the actual wage on average will be about 3.86 million won for border units, which they do get paid more because they're on duty more and it's a higher risk job.
I see. So this is, a rather big increase, as you said, compared to years past. So is there a particular reason for this big hike?
Well, this is due to complaints from officers because if you remember, President Yoon Suk-yeol's pledge was to increase and raise the conscript soldiers' pay to 200만 won, 2 million won per month, and he has done that. However, that means officers who outrank the soldiers got paid less. Right, which was, not a good sign. And that led to decreased morale amongst officers and even some of them leaving the force, leaving service. And that made these improvements necessary. So the Vice Minister of Defense, Kim Sun-ho, said that the small and passive approaches cannot solve these problems, and therefore they have drastically raised this. But this is kind of a domino because now, no one in the military got paid well.
Yes,
at least among the lower to mid-range officers.
Right.
So now because the lower ranked officers are getting this drastic improvement, their salary bordering on mid-level officers. So someone's going to have to raise, the government's going to have to raise their salary and so on and so forth, which is great. But how are we going to pay for that will be the problem or the issue to resolve moving forward.
Yes, because, there's always a budget. And then if you go over budget, where does that come from?
Exactly. Something's going to have to get cut. So
Yes.
where's that going to come from?
Exactly. All right. Next up, Seoul City announced that it will start hiring foreign workers as village bus drivers. 마을버스.
Right. So we've talked about this previously. The entire country is sitting a shortage of 마을버스, village bus drivers.
Yes.
And this is a place where we do need the experience and expertise because
Right.
those streets are steep and small.
Right.
So according to Seoul City alone, it needs 3,500 village bus drivers to kind of keep the things running smooth and on schedule. Right now, they only have 2,900. So this is about 600 drivers short. So to fill these gaps, the city has proposed hiring foreign nationals. So they've made an official proposal to the Office of Government Coordination to include the transportation industry to the E9 visa. So the E9 visa is for non-professional employment. Right now, it covers the manufacturing sector and agriculture. But now they're looking to cover have the transportation industry be covered.
Yes.
And also change the duration of the visa from the current 3 to 5 years.
I see. However, I hear that the Union of Bus Drivers as a whole, they're against this.
Right. So their position is that before they go off and hire more people, especially for nationals, the city needs to improve the working conditions for the current drivers. And we're talking about wages as well.
Sure.
Because there's a gap. The average wage for village bus drivers, 3.16 million won. That's only about 70% of city bus drivers.
Yes.
And the hours are pretty similar. So the head of the union said that the companies only see labor as money, cost, and do not respect the value of labor. There's also a problem of communication between the drivers and the customers because if you've ever just been on a bus, the riders will ask, like, does this bus go to XYZ
Yes.
place? And usually they're like very small, like local hospitals or small landmarks. So the city is of the position, however, that they will launch a pilot test program within sometime in the next year, similar to kind of the Filipina babysitters and nanny program
see.
that's happening right now.
All right, so we'll see how that pilot test program goes, right? All right. On to some international news. This war between Ukraine and Russia has reached 1,000 days. That mark as of yesterday, right?
Right. And yesterday, so once again, was the 1,000th day of the Ukraine-Russian war. But the thing is, the war continues on multiple fronts and no signs of easing up, if not escalating. So let's look at the figures. Over 11,000 Ukrainian citizens have died. Over 6 million people, they live as refugees overseas. So that entire population has fallen by a quarter. And this is a biggest conflict in Europe since the Second World War. We actually don't have accurate figures on the military casualties because both sides see that as kind of top secret.
I see.
The 1,000th day was marked by a couple major moments. Number one, of course, we are looking at the ATACMS, the U.S. long-range missile being used by Ukraine on Russian soil for the first time ever. And Moscow seeing this as not only a huge provocation from Ukraine, but also one that's been actively sponsored by the U.S.
Right.
So we'll have to see if that escalates. Secondly, North Korea, and that, of course, affects us too. But North Korean soldiers have joined Russian forces. Not significant right now in terms of sheer numbers, but this does mean a damage in morale and new concerns for Ukraine, and potentially a huge source of manpower for Moscow. Because according to one senior Ukrainian official, Pyongyang has the capacity to send 100,000 soldiers.
Yes.
And of course, kind of new outlet for income for Kim Jong-un. And so this is what's happening right now. But of course, the United States has given this full-fledged support with the ATACMS, ATACMS, the missiles.
Yes.
But that might be short-lived because we have Donald Trump coming to office, as you said, in 20 days? 2 months.
2 months,
and
yes.
that, because he has said that he will end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes,
and
yes.
that may change things.
Right. And so what is the end game? Do we know? And I know our expert will probably give their take on it later on in hour two.
Right, yes. So real quick, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has said that Ukraine must do its best to end the war next year through diplomacy.
Okay.
However, he is calling for proper security guarantees to be provided by Ukraine, full withdrawal of Russian soldiers. Russia, its objectives remain unchanged, that Ukraine must drop its ambitions to join NATO and must retreat from 4 Ukrainian regions that his forces partially control. So
Yes.
NATO and land.
Yeah. Well, once again, Professor Aurel Braun, he's going to be joining us later on hour number 2 so we can get further details. But thank you for the reporting on the 1,000 days of war between Ukraine and Russia. For a final story, we're going to go to India where the air, I was tempted to use this story for Caspic, right? Because, but the air is beyond polluted to the point of like toxicity. It is toxic.
It is thick. It's it's visible.
Yes.
It's brown, bordering on gray. Red tinges in some areas.
Yes.
So monitors recorded pollution levels of 1,500 on the Air Quality Index, the AQI. This is 15 times the level that the World Health Organization considers breathable.
And it's not just good. You're breathable.
Breathable. This
Right.
isn't like clear. It's okay. It does not harm you to breathe that air. So, yeah, the toxic air has disrupted flight services. It's already prompted authorities to shut down schools and ban construction in Delhi. So, according to the WHO, air with AQI values above 300 are considered to be hazardous for health. This hurts you. Though India's Pollution Control Authority, they have classified the air in Delhi as severe plus. So they've had to create new levels beyond severe.
Okay.
So they have once again shut down schools and banned construction. They're also banning the entry of non-essential trucks into Delhi. They've asked all offices to cut their staff 50% working from home.
I see. Well, what accounts for this situation? I know we've covered it like in the past, but we need to be reminded of
Because
this.
it happens every year.
Yes.
So every year, Delhi and also India's northern states and also Pakistan, neighboring country, they battle these smog, hazardous air during the winter months, October through January, because, well, you see plummeting temperatures, smoke, dust, low wind speed. So nothing's really clearing the air out of their atmosphere.
Right.
Vehicular emissions and crop stubble burning. So after their harvest, they need to burn the rest of the fields, and that really creates this heavy smoke. So every year, the government imposes pollution measures during these months, but once again, we do see the pattern repeating year after year.
And hence, that's why you're reporting on it. But thank you for all the news, and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And with that, it is time to get to our first song. But I want to read you just one message from Young, who says, number 5, definitely. Oh, so Young chooses 5. 성취감. That makes us able to endure all the difficulties involved in the alternatives 1 to 4, a sense of accomplishment. And I believe this is what we live and fight for every day. Wow. Now I feel guilty for having another answer in my head. But here's our first song for today, Forever by Anjeuk, requested by Benny.
너를 잊진 못해 우리 너를 다시 볼 수 있다면 기다릴 수 있어 잠시 멀리 있는 거야 안녕 슬픈 우리 사랑 삶이 끝나는 날까지 남아서 잠시 멀리 있는 거야 안녕 슬픈 우리 사랑 삶이 끝나는 날까지 남아서 눈물이 된다는 마지막 고백 지울 순 없겠지 너의 사랑만이 이 세상에서 살아가는 이유였는데 돌아와줘 이제라도 사랑할 수 있게 너의 사랑만이 이 세상에서 살아가는 이유였는데 돌아와줘 이제라도 사랑할 수 있게 영원히
Welcome back. Welcome back. So today we're talking about Donald Trump 2.0, as some media experts or media outlets are calling this second incoming administration. He will be inaugurated January 20th. And the biggest impact of this administration, many experts believe, will be on the economy here in Korea. And one thing we don't often think about is how the new White House could affect the local economy, meaning, you know, we're talking about EVs, right? The top issue is EVs, as Trump is apparently moving to strike tax breaks for EV purchases under the IRA. And this affects the local battery manufacturers. So we're talking about the 국내 배터리 제조업체 and their partners that are in Busan. So that's the local connection, right? And at the same time, Chinese EV companies are seeking to expand their markets into Europe, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, as they are more or less kind of blocked from the US market because, you know, the tariffs are going to go up astronomically, they say. One major Chinese EV manufacturer has announced that it is launching its products in South Korea, which heightens the competition for the domestic firms. So local steel manufacturers are also concerned as anti-Chinese tariffs in the U.S. may actually push China to dump its steel elsewhere. So there is a lot of moving pieces and a lot to consider before January 20th, and that date is fast approaching, right? So we're going to have to be prepared. We're going to leave the main story there for now and go back to our text topic. So here we go. Of these 5 things, multiple choice, all right? Multiple choice. Which would you rather? If you could only choose one and just one, which would you choose? Number 1, in your workplace, no stressful relationships. That includes your boss, with colleagues. Number 2, 5-minute commute. Number 3, high salary. Number 4, work-life balance. Number 5, a sense of accomplishment. I'm kind of surprised nobody asked so far. How high is the salary? Nobody asked so far. 자, 한국말로 하자면요. 이 중에 우선 그 일관계입니다. So not in your personal life. Because, you know, sometimes you have no choice. They're family, right? Okay, number 1, 스트레스 1도 없는 인간관계. 2번, 5분 출퇴근 거리. 3번, 높은 월급. 4번, 워라밸. 5번, 성취감. 성취감, not 감. Oh, I was doing so well and I messed up the Korean at the end. All right, so looking at your responses, and I was mentioning on our inner chat room on NoTube how I love the fact that the answers are so different. And also the why. Can you add the why? All right, so 가보 타고 waiver at first said one, meaning stress 일도 없는 인간관계, and they were oh no, three. A lot of wavering going on, but I get it. I know it's difficult. Taejin says 3번. Very simply, number 3, the high salary. Other people have, different opinions. Benny says, I choose work-life balance because, I like to have an opportunity to handle my work and use my balance to spend some me time. So interesting. Let's get to Kat's pick for today. Today's Kat's Pick is about what's happening to women, and in particular, one woman in Iran. And also, I have an update to a previous story. So here is a clip from NBC News.
Tonight, growing concern over the whereabouts of Roshanak Molai. The 25-year-old Iranian woman had posted this video to social media on November 1st. It's believed to show her walking in Tehran with her head uncovered when she's accosted by a man in a military uniform. She fights back in this heated exchange, drawing in several bystanders. She captioned the video, a scene from being a woman in Iran. Human rights advocates say the following day she was summoned by Iran's cyber police and eventually arrested. Her account was taken down and no one is known to have heard from her since.
She has kind of disappeared. We don't have any information about her whereabouts, her condition, whether she was rearrested.
In a statement, Iranian police acknowledged the confrontation, saying both the man and the woman had, quote, been referred to judicial authorities, and that Molai is being prosecuted for not observing mandatory hijab laws. According to the human rights organization Henga, Molai has in the past publicly opposed mandatory hijab laws on social media. She was also arrested in 2022 for taking part in widespread protests over the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini while in police custody. Amini was detained in part for not correctly wearing a hijab. The UN says she was killed as a result of beatings, but Iran maintains she died of pre-existing medical conditions. Henga says Molai was only released a year later. Women in Iran have continued to protest the country's strict dress code. Earlier this month, another young woman protested the laws by stripping down to her underwear in public at a university in Tehran. A university spokesperson saying she was sent to a psychiatric hospital. Her current condition is unknown. Even with a new moderate president and a slightly more permissive morality police, the regime is still cracking down. A UN report released earlier this year flagged what it called a deteriorating human rights situation for women and girls across Iran.
So as you heard in that clip, we don't know what happened to that particular young woman. We do have an update to the previous story that I did a few days back. That Iranian woman who had stripped down to her underwear in an apparent anti-hijab protest, she has been released. There was a lot of pressure, a lot of the media coverage, many experts think, did the trick. So she's been released and returned to her family after she was treated in the hospital. And that was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is is now time to check in with Leon. She's in the studio with us, and we're going to talk about hashtag fact check. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so we were talking about this off air.
Yes.
So, of the 5 choices, because you used to, work also, what do you think is like theoretically the most important?
This is not a difficult one for me. It's 워라밸, work-life balance, because okay, no matter how close your workplace is, no matter how stress-free you are from people, and no matter how high your salary is,
Yes.
성취가 아무리 높아도
Uh-huh.
if you don't have your own life, I feel like those positive effects won't last. Like in the
okay.
beginning, 너무 좋지. 막 사람 스트레스 없고 성취감 있고. But then
돈도 많이
라이프,
벌고.
돈 많이 벌고 너무 좋아. 근데 라이프 없어. 인생 없어. It's all work. Oh, dude, I don't want any of that.
Oh, I think you convinced our producer. She let out a
맞죠? Everyone, do you guys hear me?
She's preaching to the choir.
Right. So if I have 워라밸,
Yes,
and
yes.
that's like a given basic. And then on top of that, if I could choose 성취감, 월급, then yeah, those comes after. But I need my life. I need my free,
Freedom from
time,
work.
freedom from work,
Yes.
freedom to do what I want to do with my time besides work. So
Is
that
it
is
sad that
not.
I want, what about from the family?
What about from the family? Oh, so work is family, right?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I understand. That's why Mondays are the best, right? Because you're just like, whatever kind of works on your
Okay.
Mondays.
Well, we are going to. We have a message from 박세진 waiver. 너무 어려워요. 다 가지면 안 되나요? 네, 안 돼요. 우리는 그런
가지면
프로그램
완벽.
아니에요. You can only choose one.
Just one.
Pick one. Okay. Well, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so we're going to do like a part 2
Part
from
two.
last week.
Yes.
Because we were talking about some fun facts about sleep, right?
네.
So this is one that I wanted to bring up, which is the relationship between temperature and dreams. So did you ever have a feeling where when you were sleeping in a hot environment,
Yes.
this kind of reflected into the types of the dreams that you have?
I
never?
just can't sleep hot. I would just wake up and I'm just like irritated.
Oh, okay. It's no dreams. It's just
But not
like,
dreams though. Not for
Right,
me.
right. They don't.
I just wake up irritated and like probably like slightly sweating, maybe like
Right. Oh, I see.
uncomfortable. Do you? Have you?
I've had an experience.
Oh.
I had an experience where I went camping with a good friend of mine. Their family also, but their tent is designed to really trap heat. So and it was during the summer months, and it was so funny because the next morning they woke up and they were like, my friend woke up and she said she had the funniest dream because the tent was so hot in the morning because the sun was coming in, and she was like in her dream telling her husband, I'm not hungry. I don't want dumplings for breakfast. And apparently she thought her husband was steaming mandu, dumplings in the tent for
tent 'cause it was
breakfast.
so hot?
It was like steaming hot, like
my
a
God.
sauna. And I was like, and we were like laughing so hard. She was like,
That's so
and she woke
funny.
up and everyone was just like in sweats because they were so hot. So this is the dream that she was having. But apparently, according to the National Institute of Health, it turns out the sleeping environment can influence the types of dreams that you have. So your body does what's called a thermoregulation during its sleep, which is its ability to maintain an optimal core temperature. And this plays a very key role in the quality of your sleep and the content of your dreams. So when you're too hot or you're too cold, your sleep obviously becomes more restless.
Yes.
And this does increase the chances of waking up during the REM, the rapid eye movement phase of the sleep. And, this is actually the stage where vivid dreams and sometimes nightmares occur. So that is why temperatures could have a direct effect on the type of dreams that you have. So on that note, I wanted to look up, now that it's winter and it's cold and we're like heating up our rooms now.
By the way, have you waivers and have you, Leon, have you turned up, have you touched the thermostat? Have you?
Of course you have not. You are a very cold sleeper.
No.
I bet a lot of our listeners, maybe not to the
저만 아직
PD님, did you? Oh, yeah,
이미 했어요. She told me last week
yeah,
or maybe 2 weeks ago, but
elders need the.
she's an elder.
I mean, not our PD님, but
That's a good one. No, but
no. 후끈후끈한 뜻인, not her.
not her, but generally
the
older
elders.
yes.
Yes.
Oh, I haven't touched the thermostat at all.
And no one's complaining?
No.
Wow, you guys are healthy sleepers then.
And like relatively, it hasn't been that cold inside our home yet. Not yet, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Right,
So
right.
our ambang, what do you call ambang? My living room
Ambang?
is an ambang. You never know that term?
Living room?
Wait, no.
No,
Ambang is
the
the biggest bedroom.
They don't call it the master bedroom anymore. They call it the primary room.
Is that
now.
what it's called?
Because master, it goes back to slave days. So like, we don't call it they call it the primary room.
Okay,
Yes.
so our primary room
Yes.
sounds so like
Bedroom, yes.
technical.
Yes.
Is actually the coldest and receives the less sunlight in my
okay,
apartment.
so it's
So it's super cold. But anyway, I am not, switching the temperature up too high because, according to research from the Sleep Foundation, the ideal bedroom temperature is between 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, which is quite low, right? 15?
15 is
That's
low,
like-
even for me.
15 is like
15 is
we
a
need
little
a
low.
lot of like goose,
Yeah.
what do you call it?
Yeah, like goose down
igloo.
blankets and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, this temperatures between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius, it helps maintain uninterrupted and restorative sleep. So when you deviate a little too far from this range, whether it's like a stuffy overheated room or a freezing cold one, your brain has to work harder to regulate its body temperature.
Yes.
Which does lead to less restful sleep and potentially, again, more intense, unsettling dreams. So after I found this out, I have kept my temperature at 19. 근데 너무 추워요, 19도. 19 is
19?
cold. So I put it up to 21
Okay.
2 nights ago. And I woke up because it was a little stuffy.
So what do you
So
think
I
is perfect?
I think 20.
20?
20. But you know what? I did 20 and then my throat was a little 아팠어 today
Dry?
morning. Yeah, dry and not dry. You know when your 편도가 쓴다가 무슨 말인지 알아요? 약간 편도,
Like right here?
Yeah, it's a little getting sore. Like it's getting ready to have like a throat cold. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm a little weakling. But I'm going to try.
We need to find the right temperature for Leon.
But I'm going to be like Catherine who doesn't touch her heater until it's like freezing cold, right?
No, not freezing cold. Just
What
not,
do you keep
not
your
yet.
temperature at? During the coldest months of the year.
Well, my roommate likes to crank it up to like 22.
For the whole house? Even for your...
Like he likes it at 22. Well, if I let him, he'll crank it up to like 24.
Oh,
but I would never
24
let
is
him.
too bad.
Right. So 22 is for him. For me, maximum 20.
Oh.
Yeah, I like it kind of
So
just...
you're like the 교과서 of the
Yeah.
sleep. All right, so do we have
Yeah, we have
one
time.
more
Yeah, go, go,
time? Not one more time. Time for more.
Baby, one more time.
Maybe one more time.
Yes.
Okay, so there's the. So are you I want to talk about blankets. So are you the type who can sleep with super light, thin blankets during the summer months, or do you need that puffy, that heavy, like
The
pressure?
no. Like during summer,
During
the
summer?
light. I just
The
want
light?
like something light covering my tummy. Do you like the heavy?
I can't sleep when there's no pressure on my body.
Oh, I
You know
know
what I
people like
mean?
that. Like my sister. Like she wants something heavy, like to
Yeah, something
comfort
to
her.
press me down.
Hence the comforter. That's why it's called.
Yes, the comforter.
Yes.
So I would rather turn up the AC and still have that comforting,
the
surrounded
weight.
feeling.
Yeah. Like
of
the
a
cozy
cocoon.
feeling. No,
But
I just
apparently
I,
you can.
I
Wow.
just I keep it light and I just want it to cover my tummy. And
I
it's
see.
also because my mother kind of brainwashed me. Like 배를 따시게
just the pit.
at least the tummy area.
Just the stomach.
Right.
But with a very thin one.
yeah, just something.
So apparently, blankets, they do provide this sense of security, and it actually can help calm our nervous system.
Yes.
And this feeling of comfort, it's not just a quirk, it's actually tied to how the pressure and the weight of the blankets, they actually simulate a form of deep pressure stimulation, which does lower stress hormones and increase the production of serotonin and melatonin, which promotes better sleep.
Okay.
So it's scientifically proven, according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, that this soothing pressure of a kind of a weighty blanket can reduce anxiety and it helps the body transition into sleep by creating this, again, cocooning effect. And it makes you feel more safe and it makes you feel more protected.
Is that why my youngest can't get up in the morning? Because she's like just like you, it's like a cocoon.
Right.
She has like 2 blankets and she like, no matter what month of the year, and
she's like wrapped up in her blankets.
Like from head to toe.
That happens with my kids too. And then when I'm like calling them for breakfast, they're like chua 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 because they've been into that cocoon.
Yeah, exactly.
So I bought them like this 국세사, like super thick
fleece like
robe that's from head to toe. So like wear that and come out. Don't complain about cold because I'm not cranking up the heat for over 20.
Yes.
Yes, that is my.
Can we have a part 3? We have. There's so much more.
Okay, we only got first page done.
I know.
3 more pages.
No. The thing is, like, this is such good information.
Yes.
And people are like chiming in. Oh, 고수 waiver saying PD님 어르신. And then Umberto's like, yeah, weighted blankets. Like, people are like really interested in this.
Yes.
Like Dr. Liu saying 찐방 저는 25도로 맞춰요. So people are really, really into this. So if our producer doesn't mind, because there's so much good information.
Exactly. And there's so much more fun facts.
All right. So we'll check in with you next week. We'll see.
Okay.
Thank you, Leon.
Bye-bye.
All right. It's time to wrap up our program. For hour number 1, I'll be back for hour number 2. So join me. And we have, of course, our special interview coming up. We are going to be marking 1,000 days of the war in Ukraine. So join me at 8 o'clock.
Your bridge to the world. BEFM 부산영어방송.
새로운 다우니. 건조기를 사용하면 섬유유연제 향기가 사라진다고요? 깜짝 놀라실 거예요. 다우니는 건조기를 사용한 후에도 향이 오래오래. 그래서 입는 순간까지. 다우니 7일간 피어나는 향수. 다우니.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터 부산의 여름을 만끽하는 바다축제, 전 세계 영화인들이 모이는 부산국제영화제와 새로운 시작의 해맞이 축제까지. 부산의 축제는 우리의 열정을 가득 담고 있습니다. 바쁜 일상은 잠시 뒤로 하고
campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산영어방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is News Highlights. Ukraine fires U.S.-made ATACMS missiles into Russia. Ukraine has fired U.S.-supplied long-range missiles ATACMS into Russian territory for the first time, a day after Washington gave its permission for such usage. Both Russian and U.S. officials confirmed the use of Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, and Moscow said the strike targeted the Bryansk region bordering Ukraine to the north on Tuesday morning local time. This came on the same day Russian President Vladimir Putin approved changes to the country's nuclear doctrine, which now says an attack from a non-nuclear state, if backed by a nuclear power, will be treated as a joint assault on Russia. Lee Jae-myung indicted over misusing corporate cards in official car. Suwon District Prosecutor's Office yesterday indicted opposition leader Lee Jae-myung on charges of embezzling 106.53 million won from the Gyeonggi provincial government during his term as governor. The prosecution alleges that Lee misused the government's corporate credit cards and the official vehicle for personal usage. It also indicted his former chief of staff Chung and a former government employee Bae. This charge means that the opposition lawmaker faces 5 trials. With a guilty verdict from last week, he is appealing, and a perjury case ruling due next Monday. Yoon condemns Pyongyang-Moscow military relations at G20. President Yoon Suk-yeol strongly criticized the deepening military cooperations between North Korea and Russia at the Group of 20 or G20 summit in Brazil on Monday local time. Yoon also urged the two countries to immediately stop their illegal cooperation and called for international unity to issue a stern warning against such moves. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was also at the summit on behalf of President Vladimir Putin. Leaders of Japan, Canada, and Australia also joined Yoon in criticizing North Korea's involvement and expressed broader implications for global security. Three dead at Hyundai Motor Plant during car test. 3 researchers died of suffocation during vehicle testing at a Hyundai Motors plant in Ulsan yesterday, said officials. The 2 Hyundai researchers and the other affiliated with a subcontractor were found unconscious at a test chamber for car performance tests at around 3 p.m. The victims were presumed to have suffocated due to toxic gas in the enclosed space, and a police investigation is underway to find the exact cause of the accident. The Labor Ministry is going to review whether the case is applicable under the Serious Accidents Punishment Act. POSCO shuts down wire rod mill in Pohang due to oversupply. POSCO, South Korea's top steelmaker, said that it has shut down a wire rod mill in its Pohang factory in order to boost profitability and managerial efficiency. The shutdown decision was made due to the heated competition and oversupply in the global wire rod market from cheap Chinese steel products, as well as its decrepit facility, POSCO added. The company explained that an influx of cheap foreign products in the domestic market has brought down prices and thus has decided to reduce supplies of low-priced items. POSCO has previously halted operations at one of its 3 mills 3 months ago to enhance profitability. And this was News Highlights. It is now time for issue Wagle, which means Haley's back in the studio with us.
I'm back. Good morning.
Yes, indeed. All right, so first story is this. So the trash balloons and propaganda broadcasts around the border area, they've been going on for some time now. And during this time, the residents of these areas, they've been suffering tremendously when you think about it.
Right. So if you do live in Seoul or, the greater Gyeonggi area, you probably do get those text message alerts every now and then about the trash balloons coming down. But what if you are within earshot of those anti-South Korea propaganda that the the speakers, the loudspeaker broadcast? Yes. We actually do have a recording of this from Seoul Shinmun. Let's take a listen. So you can hear the wolf howls, there's a weird animal howls,
right?
Car brake metal grinding, and with the wind, and even ghosts, some people screaming and so on and so forth. This was taken at Incheon's Gangwagun County, and specifically we're going to talk about this town, 송해면 당산리. The local governments here tested the residents of this particular town for stress. Every single one tested suffered from sleep deprivation because that's late at night.
Yes.
And obviously, so many of the residents in the town apparently have to take sleeping pills. Some are on medication for anxiety. And by the way, because this is such a small town, they do have to travel to a different town for their prescriptions, which if you don't have a car, if you have mobility problems, if you are, older, it's definitely that much harder. And kids too, because they're not getting enough sleep. They're dozing off during class. They are so their studies are suffering, and they apparently have these mouth sores from the lack of sleep and decline in immunity.
Oh my goodness!
So just horrible all around. The residents have asked for the government to stop the propaganda broadcast to North Korea, and in hopes that it'll stop North Koreans from these loudspeaker propaganda, and also install soundproof windows and other soundproof infrastructure.
Yes. So has the government responded to these requests?
In part. So for one, the police has recently cracked down against groups that fire the propaganda leaflets up to the north. And this they were able to do so because previously the Constitutional Court said their activities are covered under freedom of speech. However, the police were able to apply the Aviation Security and Safety Act to these heavier loads of leaflets that weigh over 2 kilograms. So they can actually categorize this as a form of aviation.
Okay.
And then the local governments have also designated some counties as danger zones. So leaflet flying is banned here as well. But the military, for its part, it is adamant that its North Korea policy must remain as is, and that for everything that's been happening, the responsibility lies with North Korea. But the city of Incheon has decided to allocate some of its reserve funds to install these soundproof windows. However, this took 4 months. So for the 4 months, they have been exposed to that sound.
Yes.
The situation, though, is similar. Not only people in the border area, but people around the DMZ. Many in this area, they work with the local tourism industry that involves schools and travelers. But no one is going up there because of the tense situation. No one
Sure.
wants to be around the border by choice. And the bigger concern, apparently every time they hear gunshots, they used to think, oh, that was military training. Now with the tensions happening, every time that happens, even if it is military training, they're on the edge of their seats. They get very jumpy. So obviously what's happening right now, barometer of these inter-Korean relations and how basically we do all suffer. I mean, it starts in the border area, but we do all suffer when there is instability over the Korean peninsula.
Right. But thank you for shedding light on this issue because, of course, we think about the trash balloons and the propaganda going back and forth. And we think, okay, it's bad, it's inconvenient, things are bad. But for the people that are actually right there,
it's painful.
Yes. Okay. Next up, some parents' Instagram accounts are getting deleted because they posted photos of not other people, their own children.
Their own children.
Oh,
well,
why?
okay, to be specific, they're getting deactivated, 비활성화, but it's basically getting shut down.
Okay.
And the account holders sometimes don't even get access to it, and sometimes your photos and videos all disappear. So these are stories coming out of parenting communities locally. I'm sharing stories of people's accounts getting blocked or deactivated. Even one streamer, one content creator, Yuhaeju, who has 850,000 followers, has had her account temporarily blocked and it just randomly came back.
Okay.
Not clear why this is happening, but some users are saying that this is due to the new age restrictions that Instagram has imposed.
Okay.
So if an account's profile picture is of a baby or a child who appears to be under the age of 14, the AI tool that Instagram has newly implemented to kind of weed out these accounts, they will automatically recognize that as belonging to a minor and deactivate it. Right. Others suspect that it may be other users, humans, reporting these accounts. So according to Instagram, because we do see accounts of like babies or child models or celebrities.
Yes.
If an account is of a minor that's run by the parents or an agency, you must specifically say so on the profile.
Oh, okay.
Right.
New information.
Here's the thing. This may not be like a baby's dedicated account, but a lot of parents do have their kids' faces, bats, whatever as their profile pictures. So people are now sharing tips. And by the way, this isn't officially from the social media account, but from users.
Okay.
Number one, change your profile picture to one that includes your face or, not your baby. Not only of your baby, at least.
Okay.
If your ID, if your handle has words like baby or something similar, change that. And delete any captions that have elements of commercialism or ad-like content. Also, though, there is criticism that this is coming out so suddenly without any warning.
Yes.
But others are also saying that, there's a larger question as to, well, is it appropriate to put your baby's face on
out
a
there.
public account with what's going on in the world?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just.
I wish we didn't live in this world, but we do.
I know.
We do.
Well, this next story is about another parenting dilemma, maybe years down the line. So let's ask our waivers and you. What would you do if your kids asked you to let them get plastic surgery? And it's kids, technically?
Technically minors.
Okay.
Well, they have just finished their CSATs, but it's not January 1st yet. So technically they don't have their, do they have their means? They're not. They're still under your control.
And by the way, because like with the whole new birthday thing, you don't turn, you turn of age on your birthday, right?
But then for legal issues like
January
for drinking,
1st?
it's on January 1st. So everyone collectively turns of age on January 1st, so they
So
can all
confusing.
go drinking. But yes, for your other issues, we have 3 ages. We have 한국 나이, and then 만 나이, the international age, and then the legal age. Yeah. But
So
anyways.
confusing.
The CSATs, whether you're a retaker, first-time taker, it's over. And then for some people, this means plastic surgery season, 성형 season. Because go online, advertisements for various beauty surgeries are pouring out.
Yes.
On online platforms for plastic surgery.
Wow.
There are multiple ads for discounts for test takers who bring in their test tickets. And these go from maybe more... not that, you should, we're not promoting anything, please. But maybe more like, age-appropriate ones for like dermatology treatments if you have acne, because teenagers' hormones, they do. LASIK, okay, fine.
Better eyesight.
Right. But then
eyesight.
now we go into really optional territory like eyelid surgery, liposuction. That's
Lipos? For a 19 or 18, 19-year-old?
Yeah. Dimples, like 보조개.
보조개?
Apparently that's a trend. To boob jobs. Breast enhancement surgery.
Can't point there.
Yeah. Nope. Yep. So there are offers for additional discounts if you bring a friend or
like
bring
1+1?
1+1. Buy one, get one partially free, or your parent or any family member. Really.
Is this legal?
Not really.
Okay.
So this is under Medical Act, Article 27.
Okay.
No person or persons may introduce, arrange, or solicit a patient to a medical institution or medical personnel for profits. But then there are exemptions, exempting or discounting medical expenses to be paid by a patient. Complicated. Let me say this in Korean. 할인 불특정 다수에게 영리를 목적으로 환자를 의료인에게 소개, 알선, 유인하는 행위를 금지한다. So, no, you cannot advertise for me to bring a friend to get surgery.
Technically, you can't.
But there's a way to circumvent this.
Okay.
Because there is an exemption in the law for discounts that are not covered by medical insurance. Yeah, which is plastic surgery. It is not usually not covered by insurance.
Right.
And then here's the thing. Even if this were against the law, which some parts they are, authorities, they just don't have enough people, staff on hand to really crack down, because also online, they're going to click on every single website. So experts say that number one, it is so important to get full medical information. Every surgery carries risks and side effects.
Yes.
Also, the experience and credentials of the doctor. If there is an anesthesiologist, 맞춤과 전문의사 on staff, and so forth. Perhaps down to more psychological, social issues of how these surgeries and ads may be influencing your perception of beauty. Should you make that permanent decision at such a young age?
I have an additional question that's been brewing in my head. At what age, or what age is like too young to get plastic surgery? Because I have many stories I know personally of
middle school's definitely. This is my absolute personal opinion.
I have like my youngest, like she has told me, I know them personally. I've seen them before and after, like in person. Like middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Some start at like 6th grade going into middle school. 중1, 2, 3 다 다는 아니에요. 성형 수술하는 학생들 꽤 많아요. Especially with a 쌍수. That's kind of like they think it's like no
not
big deal.
even plastic surgery, which I'm like, to each your own. But yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm not a parent, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut for once.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I said, I shut that down very quickly. I was like, don't even bring that up until you're an adult.
Right.
And you can pay for it on your own.
Yeah.
Then we'll have that discussion.
I think that's like, if you have the financial means and hopefully by that time a sense of responsibility to go through with it, then yes. But I don't
Middle school? I don't know. All right, for our final story. If you grew up in Korea, you may have heard your parents or grandparents threaten you that a tiger may come and like get you if you don't behave. Like
the folk story.
Right. 호랑이가 물어간다. But did it really happen?
It actually did. Well, partially. It did happen. It happened in eastern China. A Siberian tiger, 백두산 호랑이, from Baekdusan, or the Chinese part of Baekdusan, came down, bit off a villager's arm, and ran away with it. The villager is okay. They are okay. They're under treatment, but no life-threatening injuries.
But what about the arm?
Armless? Armless, yeah. They have... yeah, so this was at the Jinsheng Korean-Chinese village in Boli County in Heilongjiang province. The resident is being once again treated at a hospital. The local authorities received a report Monday morning local time around 6 a.m. that a tiger was spotted in a local village and sent the police aviation unit to use drones to search for the tiger. The video clip you see right now is not of the attack, but what happened before. This is published by CCTV. This villager kind of was outside and saw the tiger, narrowly escaped the attack by running away and shut the iron gate. And you can see that was a close call. Like the tiger actually clashed into the gate. So naturally, the local residents, the local authorities have urged the people to take safety precautions, and they have strengthened wildlife protection efforts to please stay inside unless it is necessary. The authorities are still searching for the tiger sign. It's not clear whether the tiger is still in the village or has gone up to the mountains. This actually isn't the first time for this village, but in that area, because the Siberian tiger, 백두산 호랑이, it is an endangered species. It is known to be the largest of the tiger species, but the Jirin and the Heilongjiang provinces, they are habitats for these large cats and larger wildlife. Because of the rough mountain range and there's a huge river running through it, great habitat for wildlife. There are about 60 Siberian tigers and 60 leopards, 표범, that live in the area, and their numbers are expanding, which although good once again from the wildlife and preservation perspective.
Yes.
You know, if a village is close by, then this also puts the residents at greater risk.
Right, but I don't know. I mean, this is unfortunate. We don't want people to be harmed in any which way, but you know, always the bigger picture is like we're kind of like infringing on
That's true.
land.
They were there
First.
before.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for all the Waggle stories. We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right. Back to you, the Wavers. It's time for your updated traffic and weather. It is now time for your updated traffic report at 8:20. It's looking slow on Byeonglo from the Wondong ramp to the Mangmi ramp right now. There's also some backup detected on 중앙대로 from the Busan intersection to Seomyeon intersection. And it looks congested on Hakgam대로 right in front of the Sasang district office. You might want to take a detour or be at least aware of that right now. Currently, it is 7 degrees under clear skies, and it's expected to go up to 16, but we might get some clouds right around midday. Across the nation, it will be cloudy mostly. Some rain forecast in parts of Jeju and the western coast. And this was your updated traffic and weather. And this is Super Freak by Rick James.
She's a very kinky girl, the kind you don't take home to mother. She will never let your spirits down once you get her off the street. Oh, girl. She likes the boys in the band. She says that I'm her all-time favorite.
right, listeners, before we get into our special interview, we are going to go over our text topic one last time. So, I asked you, obviously, you can only choose one, and a couple people said, can't we choose two or multiple? No, that's the whole point of a multiple choice kind of quiz. You can only choose one. 네, so another person, 다 가지면 안 돼요. 네, 안 돼요. And the most, and I thought there would be a common thread, but I love the fact that there wasn't. There wasn't a common thread, but I think a lot of people felt, I did, slightly guilty after Young's message when he said sense of accomplishment. But no, that's not to guilt trip anybody into that. It's picking a particular answer. Everybody actually had their own reasoning as to why they chose their particular answer. And let's see, some other answers. Jin Lee says, number 4, Warabel. Ryu-님 says, did I read that one? 3. 돈이죠. 그저 없으면 다 스트레스니까요. So I read that one more time because I think for a lot of people it can be stressful if you don't make enough and everything else kind of, lays by the wayside. Right? And then we also have other people who are going with number 1, 스트레스 1도 없는 인간관계, because if you have stressful relationships at work, it can make going to work every day extremely painful. So I get you. I do understand everyone's reasoning behind the answers. All right, now we're going to get to our special interview. Like I said earlier, we're going to talk about the 100 days of war in Ukraine. I'll be back in a moment. As the war in Ukraine reaches its 1,000th day, actually, here Korea time, it was yesterday, the conflict continues to evolve with significant global implications. And the latest, as of broadcast time, in breaking news, we heard that Ukraine has fired these U.S. long-range Army tactical missile system missiles into Russian territory. And that was for the first time ever. And it came after the U.S., under Joe Biden, gave the green light for the use of these missiles, a move seen as a major shift in American policy. So this decision has sparked debate over its timing, the potential impact on the battlefield, and of course, the risk of escalating tensions with Russia as well. So let's talk about this more. Joining us once again is Professor Aurel Braun, Professor of International Relations and Political Science at the University of Toronto. Hi, welcome back, Professor.
Hello.
Yes, so Professor, if you could tell us, why do you think at this time President Joe Biden decided that he was going to sign or give his approval for Ukraine to use these U.S. long-range missiles at this stage of the war?
The Ukrainian leadership has been pleading with the United States to get these missiles and to be able to use them not just within Ukrainian territory or the territory that had been illegally annexed by Russia from Ukraine, but to hit back at Russia, because after all, Russia has not been restrained in any shape or form. Russia has attacked every part of Ukraine. So why would Ukraine, in terms of defending itself, the Ukrainian argument goes, not be able to hit back at Russia, particularly concentrations of troops, military installations, ammunition depots, and so on. And there has been this kind of delay, timidity on the part of the United States. So this was a long time in coming, and I think there are several reasons for this particular timing. First of all, the United States had been warning Russia not to use North Korean troops, that this would be an escalation. Something like 10,000 North Korean troops have been brought into Russia, and they are out of the Kursk salient. Russia has amassed about 50,000 troops, and the North Koreans may be used to engage the Ukrainians. And President Biden said this was an unacceptable escalation, so he had to respond. So this would have been the first reason. Second, I think President Biden is concerned about his legacy. There have been many, many concerns that the United States has not stepped up sufficiently. It has been generous, but slow and too timid. Third, I think there was this other element that President Biden would like to Trump-proof Ukraine against the new presidency of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has indicated that he does not want to continue to support Ukraine indefinitely. So the current administration would like to get as many armaments, as much equipment in as possible. So if it should happen that the United States cuts off aid or diminishes aid, Ukraine would not need to surrender. It would be very difficult, obviously, for Ukraine if they were cut off from that kind of aid. So these were some of the considerations. The last one I would say is that Ukraine has not been doing very well, and they needed also a psychological boost. So these weapons may not be a game changer, but psychologically, they indicate that the United States is accepting the Ukrainian argument that in order to defend themselves, they should have the same rights as the aggressor, not that they would be diminished and that they would have to fight with one hand tied behind their backs.
So thanks for going over the different reasons as to the timing and the why Biden approved this. So how significant is this particular missile system in changing kind of the dynamics of this conflict? Is it a game changer, or is it more of a symbolic gesture?
It's a very good question, because these are very potent weapons. They have a range of 190 miles. They can hit fairly deeply inside Russia. And of course, Russia will concentrate a lot of forces within that perimeter. The problem is that for these to be a game changer, they would have to be supplied in massive quantities. And the United States does not have those quantities. The American production of weapons has not really kept pace with international needs, with the geopolitical threats. And this is one of the dangers, that even though this conflict now has passed 1,000 days, and even though there is a concern about what China might do against Taiwan, the United States has not increased production as much as many critics of the Biden administration would say. And consequently, the number of these missiles that the United States could supply is rather limited. Now, they may have an impact. They certainly have a psychological impact.
Yes.
But it's a little bit late at the moment. They should have been done earlier, before the Russians had more time to prepare, before the Ukrainians had taken such severe losses.
And Professor, I want to go back to what you said. You know, obviously, one of the reasons you said was that, there was this continued warning of not using North Korean troops in this conflict, and then now we see, Biden okaying, approving the use of these U.S. missiles, this system. Do you think that the potential escalation to this conflict that it could arise, that, with Putin and now with Biden nearing the end of his administration, could things even get more heated as we get to the conclusion of the Biden administration?
Certainly, the Kremlin, Mr. Putin, is threatening that.
Yes.
And not only that, but he's making a nuclear threat. And any nuclear threat has to be taken seriously. That doesn't mean that there are no deterrents. It doesn't mean that the West, NATO, should cave in. But Mr. Putin's administration now has sharpened the nuclear threat in a very risky and destabilizing way. They have said that the new nuclear doctrine that they are going to pursue is one where Russia could use nuclear weapons against a non-nuclear state and against allies who may be nuclear states supporting that non-nuclear state if Russian sovereignty is critically threatened. And that depends on the definition. There's a movement away from saying that there was an existential threat, which was the previous position. And by including not only Ukraine in this kind of possible nuclear targeting, but also a state that is a nuclear power supporting Ukraine, this is directed not only at the United States, but it is also directed at the Europeans, because two of the European countries, France and Britain, which have the capacity to supply some long-range air-to-ground missiles and Storm Shadow missiles, the Kremlin obviously wants to deter them as well. And this is why it is so very important for the West to be united and to say to Vladimir Putin, we understand you have nuclear weapons. We understand nuclear deterrence. We went through the Cold War.
Yes.
And we all have nuclear weapons, and it's a very bad idea, Vladimir Putin.
I see. Well, Professor, what about the reaction from other entities, the other players, namely China, NATO allies, to this U.S. decision? Because, I mean, there are so many key global figures and players and entities, even though obviously the war is between Ukraine and Russia. How does this affect those other key global players?
This is where we see all the linkages. Nothing is really local.
Yes.
Everything is global. And so China has been watching very carefully what is happening in Ukraine.
Right.
If the Americans and NATO show weakness, that might embolden China in the current policies of Mr. Xi Jinping, who has threatened to take over Taiwan by force if necessary. And temptation is one of the great risks in international politics. At the same time, this kind of nuclear saber rattling by Vladimir Putin is bound to worry China, because China does not want to see a United States that will now more heavily invest in newer and more potent nuclear weapons, because China is trying to catch up. And if the United States now tremendously enhances its nuclear forces in response to Russia's, that is not good for China. So China is facing this kind of dilemma. It doesn't want Russia to lose. On the other hand, it doesn't want Russia to take too many risks.
Right. And so we've been talking a lot about Joe Biden and his administration up to this point, Professor. But, you know, with President-elect Donald Trump, he is due to take the oath of office January 20th, coming in about 2 months. And he's already expressed his views on Ukraine thus far. So how do you see this evolving come January 20th with him taking the office once again? How will things change, the U.S. support for Ukraine?
Mr. Trump is a very strange enigma, to say the least. And this is putting it kindly and generously. And so it's very difficult to decipher what his policies are going to be. He said he can settle this war in one day. Well, the only way he can settle that war in one day is to force Ukraine to surrender. And I do not believe that Mr. Trump would want to be perceived historically as the man who lost Ukraine. So I don't think that is likely to happen. It's also that Mr. Trump's rhetoric differs, at least in his first administration, differed very significantly from his policies. So he was extremely warm and generous towards Mr. Putin. But in fact, his policies were harmful to Russia because he put for energy independence and energy exports, which lowered the price of energy, and Russia is dependent on energy.
Yes.
And he spent more on the military, which meant that Mr. Putin couldn't match with an economy only about 1/8 the size of the United States. So if he now pursues what he calls drill, baby, drill, that is that he doesn't just want energy independence, but energy dominance, and he forces the price of energy, natural gas and oil to go down, that will be devastating for Russia. And if he spends more on the military, that will also be very bad for Russia. So if the Kremlin was looking forward to having Mr. Trump come in because of the rhetoric, they may find themselves to be very disappointed.
Interesting take. Thank you for pointing that out, Professor. And as we wrap up our discussion today, as we are obviously marking the 1,000 days of war in Ukraine, what lessons can be drawn from this prolonged conflict in Ukraine? And what can you tell us? I know it's very difficult to say because we've had you on several times already, but what have we gleaned from this, if anything?
It tells us that there has been a return to geopolitics, that the aspiration that many of us have to have a rule-based order where you have powerful international institutions, that has not happened. This is almost going back to Thucydides 2,500 years ago. Might he get away with a lot of things? There's always the possibility of aggression. And this is why deterrence is so crucial. Deterrence depends, however, on credibility. Depends on how you signal, on what capacity you develop. And I think what we saw here was the Western deterrence, the democratic countries' deterrence, failed in Ukraine. In the case of the Biden administration, they had predicted the Russian invasion, but they failed to prevent it. So I think whether it is the case of Ukraine, whether it is South Korea, whether it is Taiwan, the democratic countries must make sure that their deterrent power is strong and credible. Otherwise, we're going to see ourselves in conflicts that can easily escalate, that can threaten not just regions, but the entire international system.
Well, of course, deterrence, very important here in the Korean Peninsula as well. So we will take those words to heart. Thank you so much for your expertise on this matter. Thanks for joining us today, Professor, and take care.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. This was Professor Aurel Braun, and we looked back on the 1,000 days of war in Ukraine. Deterrence, credibility, key words, and I think that we can take those words to heart once again. You know, here on the peninsula, things not stable as well. So we'll see what happens in the world, in that part of the world, Ukraine, but also here on the peninsula too. We'll see what happens here. This was our special interview. Let's take a short song break. Love Wins All by IU.
데려가 줄래
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It is time for Skills 101. We have Jennifer here. Good morning.
Good morning. It's finally getting a bit cold.
Oh,
right?
yes. It went from like cool to cold.
Yeah.
Real quick.
You can feel winter coming.
Yes, we do. So what is our topic for today?
Well, we all have habits or behaviors that can sneak into our daily lives without us really noticing them, right?
Absolutely.
Some seem harmless, but they might have a bigger impact than we realize or we would like to admit to.
Okay.
And that's why we are exploring today, the impact of swearing.
Oh,
saying
swearing.
bad words. Yeah.
욕하는 거요. 오. It's something that we hear all around us, and it's so common. We hear it on the streets, and I think we're kind of used to it at this point, especially like teenagers. Stuff that we can't say on air, but like I hear it all the time. In the beginning, like I was just kind of like, and now it's kind of like we've almost grown immune to it. It's kind of sad.
Especially among teenagers, they want to look tough.
Right. They want to appear like grown up by swearing.
Yeah. Well, it can affect not just our brain and health, but also those people around us. So let's start with the health aspect. Research shows that frequent swearing or expressing anger triggers body's stress response. Adrenaline levels spike and your heart rate increases. And over time, this can strain your cardiovascular system.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So something that we kind of don't think too much about, like swearing here and there, it could lead to long-term issues, like health issues.
혈관 질병.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And
okay.
It doesn't stop there. Studies suggest that swearing repeatedly activates the amygdala, 편도체라고 하죠. The part of the brain responsible for emotions like fear and anger. So overuse can lead to heightened emotional reactivity, making it hard to manage stress overall.
Ah, that's really interesting because, you're saying that swearing can take a toll on our health and, our relationships too, actually. But, how does it affect younger people differently? Because these days it's like, dog this and dog that, and, in Korean, what I'm talking about, right? Like,
sure.
That,
I know
right?
it very well.
Yeah.
For teenagers who are still developing cognitively and emotionally, overusing swear words can have a long-term impact. When they rely on swearing to express their emotions instead of using appropriate language, it can hinder brain development.
How so?
It's partly about vocabulary. Replacing words with the swear words, swearing can reduce their ability to build a rich vocabulary.
This is so true.
This affects their cognitive skills like reasoning, problem solving, and even decision making.
I kind of agree with this, not just for teenagers. Like my roommate, he sometimes swears, and then I tell him, and I call him out and I say, honey, use a different adjective. Try to find a different word that describes what you're trying to say. Because, using that word, it just
becomes a habit.
It could become a habit. And I'm like, and usually he's talking about somebody else, not at me. If he said that to me, right. But so I'm like, I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
But he's frustrated, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Even though you're not saying it to me, I don't want to hear it, right?
Yeah.
So, the vocabulary, I get it, definitely.
And over time, this habit can also increase impulsivity.
Yes.
Without proper emotional expression, they might act on impulse rather than plan or strategize. And this can lead to a pattern of rash decision-making and even aggressive behavior.
We have a question from, I won't say who, begins with a hey thing. And she asks, okay, does 개 count as swearing or is it just colorful? And she says, asking for a friend. What do you think?
I wouldn't say it's a swear word, but
maybe inappropriate?
Yeah, it depends on like who you are
saying it to. But I
where
hear
you are.
teenagers using it so much. They say it in front of teachers and like parents.
Yeah,
and I think that's
common
inappropriate
nowadays. Yeah.
Right. I think that's. To me, it's inappropriate. And like, I wish they wouldn't say it to each other even.
It's not nice to hear.
Right. It's not nice to hear, but okay, amongst yourself, I can't control.
You can call me konde, but
right, yeah. I am a high-level konde, but I don't want to hear it from, teenagers. Okay.
No. That's right. It's not about banning swear words.
Yes.
But encouraging more thoughtful communication. Nicer way, like replacing the words. So teaching teenagers to use language effectively is essential for their emotional and intellectual growth.
Intellectual growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I really sound like Konde.
So what about its impact on like family or close relationships though?
Good question. Frequent swearing can create a toxic atmosphere. Makes you feel bad, right? And especially for children, kids mimic behaviors so easily.
This is
they
true.
Observe.
True.
And this is called a mirror effect. If a child sees their parents handling frustration with the swearing or negativity, they are likely to adopt those patterns themselves.
I agree because like, when my roommate did it and then I saw my son do it, like he was like an older teenager, but it was in English. And then so I looked at both of them and I was like, both of you are banned from saying that word or you are not allowed in the house. And they both apologized and they stopped using, said word. But it does affect the children. So yes, I agree.
And here's another angle, self-talk. Imagine you're stuck in a traffic and you think this is the worst day ever and you start saying something bad and thoughts like these can reinforce a negative mindset.
Yes.
Over time, these patterns become automatic, influencing how you react in other situations as well.
This does make sense because I've noticed that, once you start like thinking negatively, it's kind of like it's like a spiral. Sometimes it's really difficult to stop.
Exactly.
You like start thinking negative and then it leads to something else and it's like a slippery slope sometimes.
Exactly.
Right.
And this is where it gets tricky. Negative self-talk can seep into conversations. For example, if you've been silently criticizing someone,
yes,
those thoughts might slip out during a heated argument.
And like the thing is, like that inner dialogue is not private anymore. And then like, it's going to make things really like uncomfortable.
That's right.
Yes.
It's like setting the stage for how we respond and even when we don't realize it.
Yes. So, I mean, how do we break these patterns if we're looking to like, stop swearing or at least reduce it, like in certain settings?
Yeah. For swearing, the first step is awareness.
Awareness. Okay.
Yeah. Try replacing swear words with more neutral and nicer expressions.
Okay.
For instance, instead of saying, "Oh, this is so expletive, annoying,"
like effing annoying. Yes,
annoying. Try this is like frustrating. It trains your brain to stay calmer.
Okay. I can see that. Not as explosive.
Yeah,
because that F word, it makes you like it's too strong, right?
Yeah.
So what about for self-talk?
Practice reframing. If you catch yourself thinking, "I'm so bad at this," for example, switch it to, "I'm still learning." And that's okay.
Okay.
Small shifts like this can have a huge impact on your mindset and emotional health.
Right. I have to say, because like Leslie is saying, like there are some studies that show that some amount of swearing can be good for your health too. It can be positive for stress relief and pain relief. I've read studies about that too.
As long as you're aware of it.
And in a certain setting.
Yeah.
Like for example, like when I'm in a competitive mode, like for sports, like with my family, like to myself, I'm saying certain things. Like to get myself amped up.
Yeah.
But I'm not like saying it to them. Like,
No.
like you and none of that. Right. So
but swearing, if you're alone in your car and if you swear all the time,
that's
that can
bad.
like come out.
Yeah,
Even
definitely. Right. No. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Right. So I love these practical strategies and hopefully our waivers will be more self-aware that there's a place and time for everything, even swearing when you're by yourself even. And so hopefully,
we become more positive.
Self-aware.
Yeah,
How about
self-aware. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll check in with you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. It is now time to wrap up our program for today, this beautiful winter Wednesday. How about this? 거리에서 by 성시경 as our final song. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
네가 없는 거리에는 내가 할 일이 없어서 마냥 걷다 보면 추억을 가끔 마주치지. 떠오르는 너의 모습, 내 살아나는 그리움 한 번에 참 잊기 힘든 사람이란 걸 또 한 번 느껴지는 하루. 어디쯤에 머무는지 또 어떻게 살아가는지 걷다 보면 누가 말해줄 것 같아. 이 거리가 익숙했던 우리 발걸음이 나란했던 그리운 날들 오늘 밤 나를 찾아온다. 널 그리는 널 부르는 내 하루는 애태워도 마주친 추억이 반가워. 날 부르는 목소리에 돌아보면 텅 빈 거리 어느새 수많은 네 모습만 가득해. 막다른 길 다달아서 낯익은 벽 기대보며 가로등 속 환히 비춰지는 고백하는 내가 보여. 떠오르는 그때 모습, 내 살아나는 설레임 한 번에 참 잊기 힘든 순간이란 걸 또 한 번 느껴지는 하루. 아직 나를 생각할지 또 그녀도 나를 찾을지